Hey, it's Mike Brennan. We're back with a special MITech TV segment with our good friend Paul Eisenstein, who is one of the leading journalistic auto experts that we have here, certainly in Detroit and probably around the country. And so we like to get him in from time to time to talk about what the hot topics are in autos and what's happening with the Detroit Three and all the rest of the information. So, what's your hottest headline you want to talk about, Paul?
Oh boy, there are so many things to talk about right now. One of the interesting things, Mike, was what happened, and most recent on my list, is what happened this past week when the automakers released their sales data for May. We saw the industry not do all that well. The good news was they didn't take the sort of tumble that they have in recent months. The last 6 months have been pretty weak, and a lot of people have been worried about that. Tariffs have certainly hurt. Watching prices hit record levels hasn't helped, and now gasoline prices haven't helped. On the flip side, what's interesting is that gas prices have actually started causing a bit of a change in what people are actually looking to buy. That's, I think, one of the biggest stories going on here.
Yeah, EVs were the big thing a couple of years ago, and then the consumers, not so much. But just where I live, a number of people I know have recently purchased new vehicles, and they're hybrids,
Yeah.
because the range anxiety. But when they're just driving around 100 miles or so around this area, they're not burning gas, so they love that. So is
Yeah.
that a big thing? Is hybrids taking off?
Well, yeah, yeah, and obviously with most hybrids, you are going to be burning gas, just less of it. But let me look at the broader picture. We have actually seen, from what the industry is reporting, a bit of a resurgence in demand for battery electric vehicles, pure electric models. They had been running at about an 8% level prior to Congress phasing out those $7,500 tax credits. That dropped to less than 6% market share from after September last year when the credits phased out. Uh, it's a little bit too early to tell where they're running because we don't get clear numbers from some manufacturers that only report quarterly. The big news is going to come when we see the June numbers, which will really be the second quarter numbers. But all the indications are that EVs have started bouncing back. The big story is what's happening in the hybrid market. Of course, hybrids, you do burn gas, but a lot less of it. Take the Hyundai Palisade. Here you've got a near full-size three-row SUV that, with its hybrid package, gets as much as 35 miles a gallon, according to the EPA. And that's about double what I was typically getting with the all-gas model, which I had for a week late last month. So that's a significant, significant increase. Uh, Hybrids right now are running, I think the latest number was about 15% of the total US new vehicle market. And you have to remember that one of the reasons it's not bigger is because there's simply not enough product there. We're seeing more models added. Kia, Hyundai's sibling, just introduced the first hybrid version of their big three-row Telluride. Uh, Toyota, well, all but two models that Toyota sells in the US, except for leaving out their EVs like the BZ, of their other models, all but two use hybrid technology. And what is it, four now, or is it five models, including the Prius, including the Crown Signia, including the Camry, are only available in hybrid. You're seeing more hybrids from pretty much everybody, and you're going to see more. I think you know Sam Abu El Samid from Telemetry Research. Sam is predicting that we'll end this year with hybrids representing roughly 15 to 16% of the market. And if manufacturers can ramp up production, it could reach 20%. In other words, one out of every five vehicles. And from there, it's likely to continue going up.
Makes a lot of sense to me on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
You have to wonder, even when this war ends, how much lower gas is going to go. As have the oil companies decided they want to keep it high? I mean, I realize it's a commodity market around the world, but still, yeah, I just, are we going to go back to the days of 350 gas? I'm not sure. Do you think? What do you think?
I think we'll see it go down. I was watching it as I drove back from another appointment, and I noticed that gas is now down below 450, and I saw one BP station doing a promotional for those who use their BP Visa card at $3.83 a gallon, which today is a bargain. Though, of course, if you go back to February 27th, the day before, or February 26th, the day before the bombs started falling on Iran, it was running about 290 something. So we're still, even at the best deal you can find, it's still quite a bit more than what we were paying only a few months ago.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have cut back on their driving. For instance, I consolidate my trips into one. I mean, I think through, I got to run here, go there, do this, and I do it all at once rather than doing it separately.
Yep. Well, I'm just glad that I primarily have an EV. I have my F-150 Lightning, which I'm driving right now, or I should say I was driving up until we got on the air. Uh, so, I see what the benefits are to EVs, and I've had hybrids out a lot lately, and they are good. And one of the things that's interesting about the hybrid today is that more and more they are not what people probably think of. Most folks still think of the original Prius, which was sluggish and anything but fun to drive, unless you were just really getting off of the idea of having great gas mileage, which for some people is a big thing. Uh, the newest hybrids are getting sportier, and in many cases, not just some, but in many cases, the Sonata, Hyundai Sonata, for example, the let's see, the Honda CRV, I think, is one that the hybrid is actually the most powerful version of all the engine options available in those specific models. And it makes sense, Mike. You know what electric motors can do. Electric motors can deliver instant, 100% instant torque. So if you want to, as an EV planner and engineer, you can turn a hybrid into an extremely high performance machine. And we're going to see more and more of that going forward because the sacrifice in terms of fuel economy is very minor. Okay, you might not get 40 miles a gallon, you might only get 38, but you're going to have the highest performing version of any powertrain available in a specific model.
Yeah. As an old street racer from my youth, I know how important it is to be quick off the line. So, but yeah, it's amazing how those electric motors just they go. So,
Yep, exactly. It's interesting to note that the current Prius, the latest generation Prius, which you may recall was named North American Car of the Year a couple years ago. I'm on that jury. One of the reasons was it had, if I remember correctly, roughly a 50% increase in horsepower versus the prior generation. And if you go to the plug-in hybrid version of the Prius, the Prius Prime, its horsepower was up 71%. It is
wow.
an actual fun car to drive.
Yeah. Yeah, I dated a woman for a while there that had the original Prius, and like you say, it was interesting experience.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, those were stone ponies, but very, very few of the hybrids today are like that. Most of them give decent performance. They typically offer good performance, and there are more and more of them that give outstanding performance.
Yeah, good. So, what else is going on out there that makes top of mind?
Well, of course, we saw the big Investors Day announcements come from Stellantis, and we learned what their Fast Lane 2030 plan was. That's pretty darn important when you consider this is a company that was losing money for several years and really needs to make a major turnaround. It's a spectacular shift in direction. They're becoming more of a collection of regional operations rather than just having a global strategy, a one size fits all strategy. That's pretty important. Two brands will dominate from the North American market, not surprisingly, Ram and Jeep. Two European brands, Fiat and Peugeot, will dominate in the markets where they are very strong. And despite Fiat being such a weak brand here in the US, the reality is it's number one in Latin America and
Hmm.
still reasonably strong in Europe. Peugeot is one of the dominant brands over in the EU. That doesn't mean that any of the other brands are going to go away. There was a lot of speculation that we would see some of the, ready for this, 14 separate brands operated by Stellantis,
Hmm.
that we would see some of them go away. Chrysler being one of those that seemed most vulnerable. In fact, it is one of the second tier brands that the Stellantis folks, including their new CEO, see as having great opportunity for the future. Importantly, that means more product. And why is Chrysler so weak? Well, the reality is it's had only one product for several years since the 300 sedan went away. It had to get by on just the Pacifica minivan. And it lost the hybrid, the plug-in hybrid version of it for 2026. We're going to see three new models there. And this is going to be very, very important. The Arrow, the Arrow Cross, and the why am I drawing a blank? Airflow, excuse me. The Airflow, which is named after a breakthrough aerodynamic design model that they introduced back in the 30s. It's interesting because Stellantis will be using more and more, if you will, cross pollination between the brands. So the Aero and Aero Cross models from Chrysler will actually be based on two new models we just saw overnight from Fiat. Both of those new models, called the Grizzly and the Grizzly Sport. I'm sorry, Grizzly Fastback. A little bit more of a fastback design, a more sporty look, as the name implies. And we'll see a lot more of that. One of the more interesting elements is that Stellantis will also be partnering up with several more brands. There's talk about them working with several manufacturers, global manufacturers. Two that they have confirmed will be working with Leap Motor, a rising star in the Chinese auto industry, and Dongfeng. Now, it's worked with both of those and it has ownership stakes in part of those partnerships. But it'll be very interesting to see what happens. We won't see any of the Chinese products sold in the US, but we will see versions of those sold as, for example, Fiats and Peugeots in other parts of the world.
And of course, the Chinese are going to be in Canada, not to a large extent,
Yep.
but they're just across the border. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in Canada as to how it would play out in the States, right?
Yeah, exactly. Actually, I was doing another program this week, and we talked about exactly that. What's going to happen with the Chinese? Um, Congress, you may have heard, uh, has a measure meant to bar the sale of Chinese vehicles. In fact, vehicles using a significant amount of Chinese technology, such as their infotainment systems. Ostensibly, that's due to concerns about privacy, and I can understand that. Uh, but some of the proposals go so far as to say if you own a Chinese vehicle in Canada or Mexico, you won't even be able to drive that vehicle into the United States, effectively creating a ban on bringing those vehicles over.
I think
Now,
that might be a bit excessive. I mean, if just driving it is not purchasing it or building it, you know.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think they're afraid of letting Americans know what
But you can
uh,
get a Chinese car for 15 grand instead of 35, right?
yeah, I
Kind of
guess we'll
thing.
call it the Beijing Wall. right?
Yeah,
Not the Great Wall. We'll call it the Beijing Wall rather than the Berlin Wall to
all right,
block Chinese cars from even driving into the United States.
sure. Yeah, okay, cool. Anything else before I let you go? I know you're on a tight schedule, so.
Well, those are the most important stories. One of the others that we did do on Headlight.News and also on our new Substack, which I'd love to give a plug to. Um, I wrote about the dogfight coming in the mid-sized truck market. It wasn't that many years ago that mid-sized trucks, well, you go back 40 years, and they actually outsold full-size trucks. But you go back to the beginning of the millennia, and sales were down to barely 200,000. There were only really three models left. It looked like midsize might disappear or perhaps leave us just with the Nissan Frontier and the 800-pound gorilla in this segment, the Toyota Tacoma. We have seen a flood of models come back, particularly the Chevrolet Colorado and GMC Canyon and the Ford Ranger. But we're going to see more. We're about to see Stellantis bring back the Ram Dakota. We'll see a variation of the Jeep Gladiator called the Scrambler, very much off-road focused. And the two of the Korean market, two of the Korean brands, Hyundai and Kia, are both working on mid-size. We may get one from VW, and we could see yet more. So this is going to be a big dogfight. And the question is, can anybody even begin to knock Toyota, the Tacoma, off of its perch? So far, it almost outsells every other model combined.
Yeah, interesting. Well, Toyota's done a good job, and of course we have the R&D center just south of Ann Arbor here.
Yep,
So
I was just there.
yeah, so all right. So how do people find out more pearls of wisdom from you? Where would they find that?
Well, there are two places, actually a lot, because I write for so many people, but the two I'd love to have them check out. There's our website, which is called headlight.news, headlight.news, no .com involved. Where the .com comes in is the new Substack I have launched along with four other journalists, Mike Strong, who you know, Ron Sessions, Larry Prince, and who did I leave out? Oh, Gary Vasilesh, how could I? Plus a couple of occasional contributors. It's called The Car Collective, The Car Collective. And they can get to that by going thecarcollective.substack.com. And it's free,
Okay.
by the way. Both the website and the Substack are free.